about whether Social Security is fair or unfair, particularly for you and your family. I've asked a poll, do you think Social Security is fair? And the people that are watching live right now, 23% said yes, Social Security is fair. 48% said no, Social Security is not fair, and 29% not sure. Well, hopefully after we talk about this today, you might have a better idea of some of the things that are perhaps fair and some things that are unfair. So we're going to get into all that again today. If you have a particular situation you think is completely unfair, I know a lot of you do, or fair, make sure you leave it in the comments there so we can have a discussion. And this, Social Security is supposed to be for us. So reach out to your politicians if you think it's fair, unfair in a particular area. Make sure you reach out to your politicians so we can fix it. Okay, so here's what we're talking about. I broke it down in 3 different areas: generational fairness, contribution, or benefits. So the generational part of it, younger people, particularly nowadays, are really worried about Social Security, whether it's going to be here in the future. My regular viewers know that in 89 checks. So you have 88 more checks at full benefit amount. The 89th check you get, doesn't matter how long you've been getting benefits, as of right now, because the Social Security Trust Fund is running out, your 89th check is going to be cut by 23% as of right now, September 25th at 3:04 p.m. That is a reality, because politicians have failed to do anything for the past 40 years, and they keep kicking the can down the road and not doing anything. And their philosophy is, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. So that is the issue going forward. And so younger people are worrying about, okay, they're going to put all this money into FICA, pay their payroll tax every 2 weeks out of their check. And when they come to retire at 62 years old or 65 or 67, it's not going to be there for them. So they think that is completely unfair. Those that are receiving your checks right now, you might be in the same situation. Remember in the 1980s that under Reagan, the Greenspan Commission, they raised the retirement age by 2 years. So right now, starting this year, 67 is now the official full retirement age. So if you were born in 1960 and after, that means 67 is your full retirement age. So, and that was a deal that they made in the 1980s to shore up Social Security. So that means older people were able to retire 2 years earlier and start their benefits at 65 instead of 67. Since they made that deal, you have to wait. So if you wanted to start your full benefit amount at 67 years old because that's your full retirement age, if you would have done that 10, 15 years ago, then you could have done that at 65. So you had to wait 2 more years. So you were out of 2 years worth of benefits. So that's a reality. And every time they raise the retirement age, it's also like, if 2 years increase is about a 13% cut in benefits because you had to wait that time. And if you file for benefits at 62, your earliest retirement age, there's a longer difference between 62 and 67. So every time you take your Social Security benefits early, every month early, it reduces a little bit. And when you add 2 more years into that reduction, then your benefits are going to be reduced anymore. And that is a reality. So if you took your benefits early, you're getting less nowadays than those people that retired 20 years ago. If you wait until your full retirement age and say, hey, I'm just going to wait till my full retirement age, so I'm not going to be reduced. Yeah, but you had to wait 2 more years. And now politicians, because they don't care about Social Security because it doesn't affect them. It's only, minor, an amount for millionaires in Washington. They don't really care about it. So they're like, 60, let's go ahead and raise the retirement age to 68, 69, 70 years old. So they're talking about that. As of right now, there's nothing official out there, but that is usually the discussion that people go into is say, hey, let's just go ahead and raise the retirement age or cut benefits. It's not what we're going to be getting to the next one, the contribution fairness. Okay, so generational, definitely some unfairness there. What about contributions? My regular viewers know about this. There's a cap, a FICA cap. So what you pay into Social Security through your payroll or net income from business, you pay, probably 99% of people out there, you pay Social Security 6.2% on every dollar you make. Okay. There's a very small percentage out there that if you make over $176,100, you no longer pay Social Security tax on that amount over that. So if you're making $50,000 a year, you're paying 6.2% of your income into Social Security. If you're making $500,000 a year, you're paying about 2.18%. So some people say that is not fair, that we have to pay for every dollar FICA, but if you're making over $176,100, you still pay under $176,100, but after that, you no longer pay into FICA Social Security. So some people argue that that is not fair. And what's interesting is in terms of Medicare, there is no cap. There is no cap for Medicare. So a lot of people, including myself and most of my community, say in order to shore up Social Security, in order to fix it for the long term, we need to remove that cap. Just like Medicare is, remove that cap. A lot of people don't even realize that Medicare doesn't have a cap. And when they got rid of that cap, the world didn't end. So we would argue that go ahead and get rid of that cap. And then we'll talk about the benefit fairness of whether that's fair. Some people would argue, okay, well, if someone that's making $500,000 or $5 million, they pay into Social Security, then their benefits are going to be increased so much, and then it's not going to help. That's the next part. Benefit fairness. On Medicare, there's also the IRMA. That for Medicare, if you're a high income wage earner or net income, depends on your adjusted gross income. If you make a lot of money, then your Part B premium is more. Most people, they pay $185 for their Part B premium. If they have this IRMA, it's called Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. It's based on their tax return from 2 years ago if they made a lot of money, or they sold a house and made a lot of money from selling a house, then they're going to pay more in Medicare, $200, $300, $400 more for their Medicare. And there's not only is there not a cap for Medicare, if you make over about $250,000, you actually pay a little bit more. So Medicare, different than regular Social Security. Regular Social Security, cap, no extras, and so that's what we need to address. All right, what about benefit fairness? So contributions, people that make a lot of money don't pay as much into it as a percentage as the rest of us do. But in terms of the actual benefits people receive, Social Security has always been progressive. And what does that mean? That means lower income people get more as a percentage than higher income people. So, because how Social Security benefits are calculated, it's based on your high 35 years of earnings. And it's called AMI, Averaged Indexed Monthly Earnings. So they take that average over 35 years and they index those earnings for basically like today's dollars. And then they come up with your monthly average that you made throughout your life. And then they multiply it by what this bin point formula. And this bin point formula is progressive. There's a first bucket they multiply by 90%, the next bucket by 32%, and the next bucket by 15% of your earnings. So let's say your average earnings throughout your life is $1,000. So over your life, you had a hard time, disabled, whatever the case may be, not able to find work, and your average earning throughout your life was $1,000. That $1,000 that first bucket is calculated 90%. So you're going to get $900 a month from Social Security. 90% return of what you paid into it. 90%. That's for $1,000. So you get $900. Let's say your average earnings throughout your life was $10,000 a month. So they take that 90%, they do that, and then the next bucket of money in that $10,000, they multiply by 32%, and then they take that last part and they multiply by 15%. You see the progressive part there? So someone that's make average earnings throughout their life is $10,000, they're probably going to get about $3,500 in monthly benefits. That's obviously a lot more than $900, so they're making a lot more from Social Security, but 3,500 out of 10,000, so that's about a 35, what's called the replacement rate. So 35% replacement of their earnings, 35%. Low income, 90%. Okay? So that calculation accounts for 97% of the people out there. The other 3%, the Social Security Fairness Act that was passed by President Biden, which is completely unfair, supported by the current president. It's being paid out right now. Those 3% of state, federal, county, city workers their calculation is different. They get extra money, an extra percentage than everybody else. It's completely unfair, but yeah. There has been no significant legislation for the last 40 years. The last one was in the early 1980s where they raised the retirement age and they did a bunch of other stuff. In the last 40 years, in terms of shoring up Social Security, pretty much nothing. The only thing that was done major terms was last year, the Social Security Fairness Act, and that actually hurt Social Security. It was beneficial for those 3% of retired government workers, but everybody else, we got screwed. And I worked at the Social Security Administration, but in my job, because I was hired after the 1980s, I paid into Social Security, and everybody that's currently working for the government pays into Social Security. So they don't get that Social Security Fairness Act extra bump like other workers that started early. City workers, state workers, or whatever the case may be. That's the firefighters, teachers, police officers, and stuff. So anyway, full disclosure there. All right, so that's the progressive part. So low wage earners get more as a replacement percentage than higher wage earners. So that's progressive. So I guess that's not fair. That is not fair for high wage earners, right? But if you look at it over a long time, a lot of studies have shown those people that are high wage also have better access to food and health care and all the rest of it. So if you have money, generally, longer life expectancy. So even though those people get a lower percentage, they live longer, and therefore they're able to collect benefits longer. So a lot of studies have showed, okay, yes, you give more money as a percentage to lower, but because they're lower income and they have a hard time getting, healthy food and healthcare and all the rest of it, they don't last as long. And that's a bad way to put it. Life expectancy is not as long as higher. So it works out that it's probably a wash either way. And that's where we're going to go into the next one. Medicare. What about Medicare? Medicare, in terms of fairness or unfair, same type of situation. If you don't have money, then when you sign up for Original Medicare, Part A and Part B, there are gaps. And Part A has a bunch of gaps, and Part B has a bunch of gaps. The big one in Part B is that 20% coinsurance. So if you have a $100,000 Band-Aid from your doctor, you have to pay $20,000 for that Band-Aid, and Medicare will pay the other $80,000. So there's two ways to fill that gap. It's either a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare Supplement plan, like a Plan G or a Plan N or whatever the case may be. So if you've got money, most people with money, they just go ahead and get the Medicare Supplement plan because there's no networks. They can go to any doctor they want. And there's no prior authorizations. So they don't have to get permission from an insurance company. The doctor doesn't have to get permission from an insurance company to do this, that, and the other that the doctor says you need. And we all see what's happening on the news on that. So if you've got money, you're able to get better health care because you can afford a Medicare Supplement G or an N or the old F or something like that. If not, then a lot of people, they choose Medicare Advantage because they just can't afford the monthly premium. And with a Medicare supplement, you also need to get a separate Part D prescription drug plan, and there's no dental, vision, or hearing in there. So people get a Medicare Advantage. A lot of people get a Medicare Advantage because they don't know there's another option, but most of the time it's just a budget issue. They can't afford it. But I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people are getting Medicare Advantage plans. Got a lot of regular viewers love their Medicare Advantage plans, but they change every year. So you might love your Medicare Advantage plan this year, but next year, it might be completely different. And there's a lot of about 1 million people are going to have their Medicare Advantage plans canceled. And I mean, if you have a crystal ball and you can see that you're going to live, for the next 50 or 60 years, and you're never going to get really sick and you're not going to get injured or anything like that, then 100% get a Medicare Advantage plan. Zero premium, got all the other bells and whistles, dental, vision, and hearing and stuff. Since you're not going to really get sick or, anything like that, then yeah, Medicare Advantage all day long, zero premium. Because if you get a Medicare supplement plan, then you have to pay the monthly premium and then a prescription drug plan and, all the rest of it. But life is what happens while we're making other plans. We never know what's going to happen. So always check out both. But if you're not able to get a Medicare Advantage plan, then, or a Medicare supplement, then you just get what's best for you, and you just have to keep up on it a little bit more. So those are the arguments. Let's see what we've got. We've got fairness. Is Social Security fair? 48%. It moved up to 48% no. And one of the other arguments that people say that Social Security is unfair, I hear all the time is, my father, grandfather, mother, whoever passed away, and they passed away at 61 years old, and they paid into Social Security their entire lives, and they were never able to collect it. They didn't have a surviving spouse, or the surviving spouse had, more money on their own record. What happened to that money? That's unfair that they paid their entire life and that money's gone. Well, yes, but that's the social part of Social Security. Anybody that ever says that, I always say, well, when I worked at Social Security, I say, well, actually, you remember that terrible accident you saw on TV last week where that young father passed away and he had 2 kids? Well, invariably, the surviving spouse and those 2 kids come into the Social Security Administration and get benefits for the rest of their lives, even though the father only worked a couple, 3 years. So the father may have paid in $1,000, but the kids will receive, $100,000 over the years. That's where the money goes. It's a social safety net. And one thing that is 100% unfair, nobody can argue the unfairness of this, is how long you have to wait to get service from Social Security, how long you have to wait to get your disability claim approved, how long you have to wait and get incorrect information and be hung up on, and that's completely unfair. You paid into Social Security, that FICA tax, part of that goes into that bucket, and Congress is supposed to take a very, very small percentage of that, less than 1%, and give it to Social Security so they can provide customer service. Congress has refused to do that for basically 50 years, for a long, long time. And that's why Social Security customer service is slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And that is by design. That is a design politicians put into the system to make the system worse. So you will hate the system. And then you say, okay, well, let's just go ahead and give it over to Wall Street. And that was the plan all along. But if you get beautiful customer service and everything is taken care of and you like it and they've shored up Social Security and you're not worrying about the 23% cut in the future, then you're going to fight tooth and nail to protect it. And they don't want that. They want you to hate it and be frustrated and throw your hands up and say, just, forget about it. Do whatever you want. And then they win. So let's not do that. So, all right, let's get into some questions here. Brian, the tax revenue IRS generates from taxing my benefits when my other income triggers up to 85% tax on benefits that needs to be put back into the Social Security fund. Yep, already done. Done, and done. So Brian, it's already been done. Let me show you. If you look at the Social Security Trustees report, it already has it in there. So this is the Social Security Trustees report that just came out within the last few months. So the 2.6 trillion that was in the trust fund, so it's not stolen. It wasn't given to Ukraine or whoever stupid, social media BS they're talking about there. 2.6 trillion is in reserves. It's there. And then we get a 1.2 trillion and actually people paying into taxes. And guess what? Or FICA tax, that 1.2 includes FICA taxes. Also interest, because the Social Security money, we loan that to the federal government and they borrow it and they pay interest on it. And then they pay us back the principal and the interest. And what you're talking about, Brian, is right there at taxation of benefits, $54 billion. Yep, it's already in there. Done, done, and done. But when the current president talks about no taxation on benefits, he keeps saying that, okay, we're not taxing Social Security anymore. That is 100% incorrect. Social Security is still being taxed. They passed a deduction, but if you're paying, Brian, if you're paying Social Security taxes, then you're still going to pay Social Security taxes next year as well. But if they did pass getting rid of Social Security taxes, then that's going to delete that $54 billion of income into Social Security, which is going to mean those benefits get cut sooner. The 23% maybe turns to 24, 25, 26%, and not 88 checks. It might be 80 checks. So there's that. 800 top military summoned to Pentagon tomorrow. No explanation from the DOD. And they just came out with a report today that they said if they do a government shutdown, the agency heads have been ordered to start firing people. Normally, I think how it was is if you furlough people during the shutdown, I guess that means we don't need those people. So rather than just furlough them, fire them. And for most of Social Security are the employees are what's called essential workers. People need their Social Security checks. But in every single office, there's a percentage of those people that work in the Social Security office that do kind of Social Security cards. And during a furlough like that, during a government shutdown, you can't get a Social Security card. Very critical circumstances you can, but for the most part, those people doing Social Security cards are not considered essential services, getting a replacement Social Security card or anything like that. So I'm watching this. Hopefully they don't use that as an excuse to cut more people from Social Security. And it's, even harder to get your benefits. And that's kind of the point as well. They put it many hurdles as they possibly can to prevent you from getting your benefits. And so how do you like my new graphics there? There it is right there. So anyway, I'm moving to the I'm getting close to the 1800s in terms of my technology. So I'm not in 2025 yet. I'm about 1885 in terms of technology, but hey, I'm getting there. How much tax dollars in that damn ballroom? I wonder if there's a family vault down below. Yeah. I feel that those e-files are how DT is getting away with so much bad stuff. Important people are in those files. Oh, okay. Okay. Everybody got confirmation from that my application for help with Part D was awarded. Will this affect anything I get if I get SUP or Advantage? Oh, okay. No, it doesn't necessarily affect your Medicare Advantage or anything like that. So what Dargar is talking about, it's the extra help with Medicare prescription drugs, also called the low income subsidy. It is the easiest application of Social Security to complete. A lot of Social Security applications are a nightmare, but that one is super, super easy. So basically it's extra help with your prescription drugs. So if you or someone you know are having a hard time paying for their prescription drugs, please tell them to apply for that. Easy application. You can do it online. You can call the 800 number. You can call the local Social Security office, whatever the case may be, and say, hey, I'm having a hard time paying my drugs, the premiums and all that kind of stuff. And they'll take an application. It's low income, low resources. And if they approve you, then you might not have to pay a deductible or co-insurance or a monthly premium. They might lower that depending on your situation in your state, how much you're paying and all the rest of it. So yes, awesome. But no, it won't affect anything else, your supplement, because your supplement, if it's a Medicare supplement plan, that's completely different. When you get a Medicare supplement plan, a Plan N or a Plan G, it doesn't come with drugs. You have to get that one separately, a standalone Part D. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, then the Part D is kind of grouped in there together, but it will help you out. So it's going to help you out regardless. So please, there's a few places people can get assistance. That's one of them. And then Medicaid through your state, whatever your state calls Medicaid. It's all Medicaid, but some states call it differently. So you apply for Medicaid, and if you're approved there, and then not only do they help you with your prescription drugs, because they actually do sign you up for Part D automatically, that extra help automatically, but they cover a lot of the other co-insurance and co-pays depending on your particular state. And they just might pay for your Part B premium, that $185. So dargar, don't stop there. If you think you're eligible for Medicaid from your state, please apply for that one as well, and you'll get even more benefits. You'll save even more money. It really depends on your particular state. If you're in Alabama or Texas, then yeah, sorry, but it's a lot more difficult there. S. Luis Grande, there is a veteran who was recently approved for SSDI. When the issue of Medicare comes up in 2 years, what should they be thinking about considering that they are satisfied with VA CommCare? Yeah, that's a super, super common question. So with anybody, veterans out there, is that they say, we're talking about, veterans, not retired. Like I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, so I'm not retired from, 8 years in the Marine Corps is considered 20 years in all the other services. So anyway, but that's a whole different issue. But I didn't retire from from the Marine Corps. I got out of it. So I'm a veteran, but I'm not, so because I'm not retired on retirement or disability from the Marine Corps, I'm not eligible for what's called TRICARE for life. I would possibly, I'm not, but I could be eligible for VA, regular VA benefits, and that sounds like your friend there. So they are using the local VA clinic, and because they're happy with their VA clinic, they're like, well, I don't want to get Medicare Part B because it costs $185. Why should I pay $185 a month if I've got the VA clinic, right? So a lot of people make that calculation and they don't sign up for Part B, which is fine if the VA clinic is always there for them. They don't move, in an area that doesn't have one. They don't need a second opinion, whatever the case may be, because if they're completely dependent on the VA clinic and it's there for them for the rest of their lives, then beautiful. If not, then you're going to have a hard time going back to original Medicare and getting that Part B. So again, I would recommend, checking out Medicaid and see if they will, because the issue is the $185. That's the issue. They don't want to pay the $185. So there's two ways to get out of that. One of them is sign up for Medicaid and the state will pay for the $185, or get a Medicare Advantage Part B give back plan. And we're not sure how many of those are going to be around next year because all of the health insurance companies are cutting back to make more profit next year. But if there is one available in your area, as the name implies, Part B give back, they pay for part or all of your Part B premium. So it's the best of both worlds. But definitely check that out. But the issue is, super long story short, if you're happy with the VA clinic now, that's perfect. That's awesome. Great thing they're doing the job. But the VA clinic, they're talking about cutting 80-something thousand jobs from there. And, it might be there today. It might be there next year. It might be there 2 years from now. But 5 years from now, it might not be there. So it's good to have a backup. So let's see. I'm asking is just, I just heard Ed say something about a child getting benefits. My daughter did when she was a child because my first husband passed. Yeah, that's called surviving child benefits, auxiliary child benefits, surviving child benefits, actually. But yes, and a child will receive benefits up until their age 18, or if they became disabled before the age of 22, or if they turn 18 and they're still in high school, it'll continue until they graduate high school, or 19 and 2 months. So yep, surviving child benefits. They get up to 75% of their deceased parents' benefit amount. Keep smiling. I was very disabled and unable to apply in person or online. It will really help my doctors just sit and everything on my behalf. Also have her doctor assign her a social worker. Yep, I like it. Yeah, if you're not able to do it yourself, there's someone out there that sure can help you. And there's also lawyers, but lawyers are very choosy on who they take as clients. They like to take people that they, it's going to be easy for them and they have a good chance of winning. Because if they don't win, then they don't get paid. So they're very selective. And therefore, they use those numbers and say, yeah, people that I represent, twice as many people get approved when I represent them. Yeah, because you're pick and choose your people. Had math. Escalator investigation, but against this guy, oh, okay. Oh, the escalator thing. Yeah, we're so distracted. Social Security favors those that worked. It was never meant to be a sole means of support. That is correct. Yep, since 1935, you're supposed to have three legs of the stool. You have Social Security, you have your retirement pension, and then you have your savings. Yep, absolutely. Favors those that worked. So you're talking about people that didn't work. Yeah, no, if you didn't work, but you've got some type of investments and your money works for you and you pay Social Security, then I guess it works for you. But usually those people figure out a way not to pay taxes. So there's that. They treated me horrible and answered none of my questions. Oh, who is this? Was this a particular office? Complain. You're doing everybody a favor. When I ran my office, we had, I had about 100 employees and 99 of them were awesome, but we always had one that just, for whatever reason, wasn't of this world. And is it impossible to fire a federal employee? No. Is it difficult? It takes a little paperwork. But in order to get it started, you need people to complain. So Tina, if you have a particular office and a particular employee in a particular office, your local office that treated you like crap, please complain. Because if that district manager is smart, they might be very, very happy because they're like, okay, because I used to have, employees and you had to have, kind of 3 strikes type thing. People have bad days and, customers, sometimes they're, they're impossible. So, but you have to get, like 2 or 3 strikes, unless it's a terrible strike and then it's over. But yeah, I had one employee I really wanted to get rid of, and we just need one more to close the case. And someone called and say, yeah, I got a really problem with this employee. And I was like, I'm going to party tonight. Yes, please tell us all about it. And then that person was gone within a week or so. But it's even tougher now because a lot of offices are tolerating those employees because they just don't have employees. So it gets worse now, and it becomes kind of a snowball effect that because Social Security, Elon Musk and Doge, haphazardly, took out that chainsaw and just fired a whole bunch of people or vacated them from the premises. Then Social Security offices were just, they're running on skeleton crews. And they're like, yeah, I'd really like to fire that person, but they do produce, 60% of the work everybody else does. They're lazy and, they need to do 100%, the same as everybody else, but they do 60%. And if I fire them, I can't hire anybody else. And so I lose that 60% and people, the public suffers. So, and then they tolerate that person and that might be your person that treated you bad. So it's unfortunate. Kim, I will turn 65 in April. I'm a teacher who gets paid 12 months out of the year. My last check will be the last day of August. I plan to retire. Do I begin receiving Social Security in September? When to apply? Yeah, so if you're going to, whatever month you want to start your benefits, you call them up about 4 months in ahead. You can file, if you're doing it online, about 3 months or so, sometimes a few days before then. But a teacher that gets paid 12 months of the year, so remember, if you're making over $23,400 because you're filing early, they're going to look at that $23,400. So if you make over that, then they're going to hold back $1 for every $2 you go over. But if you're going to essentially stop working and earn under $1,950, then they can start your benefits once you essentially stop working. So in your particular case, because you're a teacher where they take the 9 months, but they pay you for the 12, I would go ahead and apply and tell them that and say, hey, yes, I am going to get a check in, October, November, December, but that's just the way they do it. My last day of work is September 30th. Starting October, I'm not going to go into work. Yes, I'm going to get some money, but that's for the previous period that I worked. And they should be able to do that. So let me see. Got PTSD when I went into my Social Security office and saw that big ugly mugshot on the wall. Yeah. I just push the button there and whatever pops up, pops up. And so I don't, yeah. Dr. Ed, we don't care about your TEC. We love you. Oh, it's my TEC. Thank you though. Appreciate it. Maria, how do I claim my husband windfall due to be passed away 2021, married for 43 years? So the windfall, are we talking about the Social Security Fairness Act, the windfall elimination provision? Okay, so if that's what we're talking about, so based on the Social Security Fairness Act, your husband was receiving benefits, and those benefits were recalculated because he worked for a government agency, state, city, local, federal, whatever the case may be. So his benefits were recalculated. And last year they passed the Social Security Fairness Act, and now they're recalculating all those benefits. And you are saying now that they recalculated his benefits, you might be eligible for benefits on his record. If that's the case, you call him up and you tell him that. And the important thing is, because he passed away in 2021, the system, I don't think, is recalculating those benefits automatically like that. So when you contact them, you need to tell them that, hey, he was wept, and his benefit, his PI, so write this down. He worked in a non-government entity. He was wept, the windfall elimination provision. He was receiving a reduced benefit. It's not really reduced, but anyway, a recalculated benefit. His benefits was wept. I might be eligible for surviving spouse benefits, but I want to make sure his PIA, his primary insurance amount, is unwept. So the people at the front window that set you up an appointment and stuff like that, they're not going to know what you're talking about there. So just tell them to schedule you an appointment to file for survivor benefits. And then when you talk to the actual person, say, hey, I just want to confirm, was his PIA unwept? And if it's unwept, then you're good. Then you'll get the correct amount. So it actually shocks to my very being how darn backwards flipped the believers versus the not. Oh, okay. Thoughts about the shutdown because this administration won't extend ACA benefits. Yeah, that's essentially the only leverage that the other party has is the continuing resolution. So for those people that receive the Affordable Care Act marketplace insurance, they're going to see their benefits, their premiums increase by, I've seen, about 75%. So some are going to get doubled. Well, they're going to be increased by 75%, and you're like, that's not doubled. But what happens is when you get millions of people that say, I just can't afford the premiums anymore because it went up 75%. So I'm going to just cancel my health insurance and hope for the best. Or what happens is the hope for the best is they don't have health insurance. They get sick, they get injured, they go into the hospital, and the hospital has to take the hit. It's uncompensated care. So they have to raise the prices on everybody, including everybody. So that person actually, for all intents and purposes, their benefits, their premiums are going to double because a lot of people are just going to cancel their health insurance. And health insurance is a pool. The more people you have in the pool, the cheaper it is for everybody. But when you start kicking people out of that pool, then doctors and hospitals and clinics and health insurance companies, because they have to make a super profit on it, they start raising prices for everybody else. So I think we need to do everything we possibly can for everybody. Even if you're receiving health insurance from your employer, your premiums are going to go up because of this, because people are going to get kicked off of Medicaid. People are going to get kicked off of Medicaid, I guarantee it. And not those people that you don't think should get it. The 26-year-old kid, playing PlayStation in their parents', basement. Sure, they're going to lose, but there's going to be a lot of other people lose as well because of the bureaucracy and the hurdles they're going to put up. We've seen this before. So everybody's going to pay more. So we need to do something. And kicking people off is not the solution. So Part C is Medicare Advantage. Yes, I hate calling it Part C because then it sounds like it's part of Original Medicare. It's Part C of Original Medicare. No, it's not. Yeah, it's private insurance. And so I didn't even apply for fuel assistance, but I got a letter in the mail saying I'm approved. I'm going to end up paying it back. I don't want it. Yeah, watch out for anything like that. One of the things I had David DeFord here, who helps people with final expense burial insurance, and I had him on here. One of the common things that these people, just kind of a scammy thing they do, they advertise on Facebook or send you direct mail or something like that that says, hey, your state has this, certified, program to where if something happens to you, your family can get 10, 20, $30,000. And that's all BS. Is there something like that? Yes. But is it state approved? Well, yes. And that's the trick they use. All insurance is state approved. So if you have auto insurance, then the auto insurance company has to go to every single state and get approval from the insurance agency in that particular state. So when those people advertise some, final expense burial insurance or something like that, they always kind of trick you into saying, oh, this is a state-sponsored program or a state-approved program. Yeah, all insurance has to be state-approved. But if you're looking for something like that, reach out to David and his team there, Final Expense Burial Insurance, and they'll help you out, because the $255 lump sum death benefit from Social Security ain't going to do it. And there it is right there. David and Chapter and all of them, those awesome people, they support our website so we can do all this for free for y'all. So, and we're doing a whole bunch more to help out as many people. So, let's see. I just wanted to say thanks to you and Chapter. I was assisted by Zane, and he found me a fantastic pocket-friendly supplement plan in my area. Thanks again. All right, Larry. All right, good deal. So you were able to get a Plan N. That's the one I actually recommend as a Plan N. Again, if you can afford it, if it's in your budget, a Plan N. The reason I get a Plan N over a Plan G is because I'm cheap, and so Plan N usually costs you less. But if you've got some issues, medical issues, or you foresee medical issues in the future, maybe a G. So right now I'm at an N, but the closer I get to that age, if I start getting sicker or something like that, I start worrying about stuff, then maybe a G. But anyway, great. Thank you for letting me know they took care of you. Simplified, Dr. Ed, my late husband was a jarhead. All right, hurrah. So that if your late husband was a jarhead, that means you were a jarhead too, because yeah, that's why when I put in my little credentials there, that's why the little scare quotes where it says former sergeant. Yeah, once you've been tapped on the head a few times by your Marine Corps drill sergeant, then it stays with you forever. So, and it affects everybody around you. So apologize to my son out there. He's doing right. So he's awesome. Air Force One isn't good enough for DJT, so taxpayers will have to pay $1 billion to upgrade the palace in the sky. Yeah, and then it goes to the presidential library, so he gets to keep it afterwards. So what a deal. Make more money last year receiving my Social Security and over 67, still working and still getting the same amount, wondering why. Remember, your earnings are, your Social Security check is based on your earnings, and over your high 35 years of earnings. Okay. But those earnings are indexed. So if you made, let's say, more money last year in absolute terms, then okay, but that doesn't necessarily matter. So you're like, okay, last year I made $60,000. And I looked at my high 35 years, and they're including that $20,000 I made in 1980 scooping ice cream. So that $20,000 should go out, and they should put in the $60,000. No, that $20,000 is 1980 is worth about $100,000 today. So that's more money today than it was. So than you did last year. So, so that might be the case. That might be the case. Or it takes time. But it's September. So, well, last year I saw some people get their recalculation effective October. So if that is actually your high year, and then it increase your benefit by more than $1, then they'll send you a letter that says, hey, we're going to increase your benefit. And then they'll give you that retroactive. So if it takes them till to October to recalculate it, and you're due an extra $10 a month from now on forever, you are actually eligible for that extra $10 a month going back to January. So they'll give you a lump sum check of $100 to cover the 10 months they didn't give it to you. So, all right, I've got an interesting story someone sent to me about someone that passed away. So I want to show the local news story here. Let's see here, get this all going.
And what a family says is a colossal governmental mistake that is now threatening the well-being of an 86-year-old woman. John Van Leuven of Santa Monica is dealing with the death of his beloved mother. What's most jarring is the fact that it never happened, but the federal government's information says otherwise. 86-year-old Sarah Van Leuven is still very much alive.
It's been quite an ordeal. Not so much for me, but for my children and my son, who's my care provider.
Due to some kind of computer glitch or human error, the Social Security Administration listed Sarah as being deceased as of April 1st, 2016.
Okay, so I was watching this. Someone sent me this, and I appreciate the person that sent me this. Found deceased 2016. Okay, so there was a story that went out a few months ago that a person in Seattle passed away, and they said, oh, this is Doge getting in there and messing stuff up. Maybe, but probably not. This happens, unfortunately, sometimes. And how it usually happens is because Social Security has contracts, kind of deals, arrangements with each state. Those states, in the state, the funeral home or the coroner's office or whatever the case may be, they, when someone passes away, they fill out, their certificate, and then they put the person's Social Security number on there. And sometimes they mess up, and the last part of the Social Security says 2-1, and they put 1-2 and stuff. And then they notified the state, and the state notifies Social Security, and Social Security notifies Department of Treasury, and Department of Treasury grabs that last check, and Social Security says, okay, this person is deceased, gone. Was it the Social Security Administration's fault? No, it was kind of the state's or the funeral home or something like that. So what happens is, the technical term that Social Security always tells employees don't use is that person needs to be resurrected. So if that happens to people, and it unfortunately happens sometimes, and then that person has to go into the local Social Security office and, show their ID, and Social Security employee will resurrect that person. And Social Security bosses always say, don't use that word resurrect, because anyway, so they resurrect that person, but it is a nightmare. So when this person, 2016, that's what probably happened. Somewhere along the line, it was a Social Security mistake. Someone at Social Security typed it in wrong, or the funeral home or the coroner's office or whatever. It's hard to track those down. Anytime this happens, news channels reach out to Social Security, and Social Security has always had the policy of, we can't win in that situation. So our comment is no comment. We'll fix it, but trying to figure out where it's not worth it. It happens sometimes, unfortunately, and the result is always, really, really bad. Because people, the bank account is closed, credit card is closed. But what's interesting on this particular story is they don't necessarily talking about their money. They're talking about their Medicare. So I think this is actually, I'm leaning towards this is a Doge mess up with this new thing. 2016, that's the normal, but it happened again. And that's very, very strange. That is very strange. So let's listen to the rest of this.
Former LAUSD special education teacher and stroke survivor actually retired on that date, and the milestone could be at the center of the confusion. Whatever the case, the family was first notified about problems with Sarah's status in 2023. They thought the problem was solved, but fast forward to June of 2025, and they received another cryptic letter from the federal government. Come to find out, Sarah was not only listed as deceased again, but she was eventually purged, erased from all records with Medicare and health insurance systems. She says the lack of information suggested she'd never been born. The gargantuan gaffe disrupted her pensions, with a year's worth of payments pulled back overnight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is based on my inside experience, doing this millions of times. That was a Doge thing. 99.9% chance that is a Doge thing. Because there's two records, and this is what Elon Musk didn't understand. So her payments from Social Security are continuing. That's her MBR. That's where money comes from. Social Security is the MBR record, master beneficiary record. It looks as though they canceled out the Numadent. That's the one that's Elon Musk was focused on. That, if we fix these, all the people that are over 120 years old, these zombies getting benefits, if we fix these, then we're going to save trillions of dollars. Well, the problem is zero money comes out of that file that he was looking at. So that's the one they've been focusing on recently that they're cleaning up right now. So I think one of these young kids that didn't know what they're doing canceled that record out. Not the payment record, because she's still receiving it. So all the issues come from Medicare and her health insurance and her private pension, because her private pension looks like it was Cal STRS, so she was a California teacher. Her private pension also stopped because they were notified of her passing. So I'm almost sure, based on my experience, if you're a Doge person, if you're that young kid messing with those records out there, I think this is going to happen more. I think this is the first story that we're going to see like this. I think there's going to be a lot more that pop up. And again, this happens, it happens sometimes, but it's going to happen even more because of what they're trying to do. So that's based on my experience. So, all right, let's see here. Valerie, I really appreciate your hard work to keep us informed. I spoke to Melanie at Chapter, and she was very helpful and kind to the questions. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me know. Anytime I recommend anybody to y'all, I like to keep I really like to watch and make sure they're doing everything right for y'all. But Chapter has been doing a phenomenal job. And speaking of, if you're going to be reaching out to anybody, you should get your annual notice of change here by the end of the month about your Medicare Advantage Part D plan. If you're looking to change, you can reach out to Chapter and take a photo of the screen here. You've got the number there. But whoever you talk to review your plan for 2026, make sure you have your current plan so you can compare it. You get your providers, your prescriptions, your pharmacy, your priorities, and have a little patience. If you call on October 15th, you're probably not going to get through. But you have until December 7th, so don't sweat it. The plans don't disappear. It's not like on Black Friday or something like that, where you go and see if you get the Cupid doll or whatever. The plans will still be there. They're not limited. So if you get in on October 15th or December 7th, you'll still have the same options of plans. But it's going to be difficult getting on any place October 15th because there's going to be so many people wanting to switch. And your new plan is going to be effective January 1st. Probably around November, but you can call October if you want and see if you get through. But if not, then, Chapter will call you back and they'll definitely get you taken care of. And I'm going to be watching them, as always, and make sure they treat you all right. But they've been doing a phenomenal job so far. You are in the database. That's how they look you up. Yeah, we're in everybody's database, aren't we? Let's see. Why do they have to be this way? Oh, okay. Yeah, people are just that way sometimes. Want to know if I have my elderly mother move in, do I have to claim to my spousal if I charged her rent? The only thing that would be pertinent for Social Security is if one of you were receiving SSI, Supplemental Security Income. That's a welfare-based program, low income, and sometimes because of that, if you move, you have to notify Social Security that you're in a new place, and they might give you more money if your rent is more, or, whatever. But if she's not receiving, if you or someone in that household is not receiving SSI, supplemental security income, the welfare-based program, then no issues whatsoever. For Social Security, if she's receiving Medicaid or anything like that, then that's a whole different issue. So it should not be capped like the rest of middle class and lower class. Remove the cap no matter how much you make. Yes. And that would solve a lot of the problems with those cuts that are going to be coming in a few years. And because people, again, hopefully I made this clear when I talked about that. If we raise the cap, that's people are saying, well, if you just raise the cap, the people that are making $1 million are just going to get more in benefits, and then it's going to kind of balance out. It's not going to help anything. No, because those people don't understand that the benefits are progressive. So maybe we just need to add another bin point, 90%, 32%, 15%, and then just add another one, 0.1% or something, whatever the case may be. And then, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and everybody, they'll get, $5,000 or $6,000 from Social Security. They'll pay a whole bunch. And then we'll name a dog park after them as a consolation prize or something. I don't know. Does a local government pension reduce my benefit-like income? No, not anymore. Not as of last year when they passed the Social Security Fairness Act. So. Our flowers. I am still working less than $23,400 this year. I received a buyout, a family home. This will affect my Social Security benefits. Receive more than X. Can I receive a survivor? It doesn't affect your. I'm still working less. Okay, so you're still working less than $23,000, so no issues there. You got a family home. It won't affect your Social Security. It might affect your Medicare. That's that Part B premium, the Part A, or the Part B and the Part D premium I was talking about, the income-related monthly adjustment out. But that is if your capital gains from that, if you're single, if it's over $250,000, then you might have to pay extra. If you're married, over $500,000. So, all right, I've got 3 video questions. Let's get into some video questions here.
And I had a question on you. When I turned 66, they took me off of disability, but that did not heal my disability. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, it's hard to hear him there. So yeah, when he turned his full retirement age, they took him off disability, but that didn't heal his disability. I agree. Yeah, it's just a bureaucratic thing that if you are receiving disability benefits when you turn your full retirement age, they automatically switch you to regular old retirement benefits. You're still disabled, obviously, but you're just receiving regular retirement benefits. It's just a bureaucratic thing. They stop taking your money out of the Social Security Disability Trust Fund and start taking out of the Retirement Trust Fund. So your check stays the same, but it's good for you because work limitations, you no longer have any work limitations, and you no longer have CDRs, continuing disability reviews, because you're not on disability. So, all right, let's see. We've got 2 more questions here.
Hi, Dr. Ed. Just following up. Got my ANAC letter today for my drug plan, and to my surprise, my $20.90 drug plan went down to 0 for next year per month, which is quite a surprise. Not sure who else is seeing this, but I was quite surprised because I was expecting it to go up.
Okay, so yeah, that's great, but you need to triple check to make sure that's not a better word than trick. That's not a strategy that particular Part D plan uses. Okay, so because on prescription drug plans or Medicare Advantage or anything like that. But in terms of Part D, let's stick with that one. They say, hey, there's a lot of good plans in your area and we don't want you to switch. We want you to stay with our plan. So we're going to reduce your monthly premium from $20 to $0. And then people will open the letter and they'll say, oh, great, $0. And they'll go on with their lives. But sometimes, the insurance company, I hate to break the news to you, these guys are in it for money. So they say, yeah, we'll kind of, put that in there. But over here, that's where we'll get our money back. So the prescription that you take, possibly, instead of a $50 deductible, it's going to be a $100 deductible. Or we're going to move this from a tier 1 to a tier 2, or we're going to cancel out this one, or whatever the case may be. So you have to look at it. You just don't look at the monthly premium. That's why a lot of people on the Medicare Advantage plans, they just look, oh, you've got a Medicare Supplement Plan G that's $100 a month, or a Medicare Advantage plan that's $0 a month. Duh, Medicare Advantage all day long. But then they nickel and dime you over there and the prior authorizations and then limited networks and stuff. And so you really, really have to keep up on your Medicare Advantage plan. You have to check it every year. So you have to look at the totality of the plan to make sure you're doing the right thing. All right, one last question.
Hi, I'm 62 years old. My first husband died in 1987. We were married 1 year, 1 week, and 1 day. Can I file on his benefits? Or and I remarried, and we were married 32 years. Would it be easier for him? We are divorced.
Okay, that was the thing I was waiting for right there. So she was married to someone when that person passed, and she was married to that person for over 9 months and still married to that person when that person passed. So she is 100% eligible for benefits on that person's record because she was married to that person for over 9 months. There's a couple of exceptions if that person passed away because of an accident or was in the military. So she is entitled to benefits on that person's record. If she got remarried, which she did get remarried, that cancels out the eligibility of benefits on the first until she's no longer married that second time. So she got remarried 32 years and got divorced. So she's now single. So she can go back, you can go back and file for benefits off of your most recent. If that person is, still out there alive, then you're only going to get up to 50%. But a surviving spouse, you can get up to 100%. So you call Social Security and say, hey, am I eligible for any more benefits? You're eligible because you were married for at least 9 months, but it really depends on what the benefit amount is. So whether it's more than yours. So you can start survivor benefits as early as 60 years old. If you're currently receiving benefits on your own record, and there's more money on that other record, then they will add that on there. They'll take you to that higher amount. So absolutely. So call Social Security immediately, if not sooner, and file a claim and come back here and tell us how it went. Tell us if you got some more money. So, all right, we are over an hour. I apologize, way out of time here. I'll be back again tomorrow. We'll talk about something else, and I'll answer a whole bunch more questions. So what do y'all think? You like my sliding little things there? So anyway, trying to make it better every day. All right, y'all take care. Have a beautiful day. And please, 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 please take care of each other. Bye-bye.